So let's start with just some basics. If you would introduce yourself and tell us about the film.
Hi, I'm Darrel Alejandro Holnes, the writer of Marimacha. Marimacha is a short film about a conservative Panamanian family that's driving to a wedding and experiences car trouble, at which point their daughter takes out her phone and accidentally ends up coming out to her parents through a revealing photograph that they end up seeing. So it's about confronting the queer elephant in the room and who gets to define what love means in a family.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is very much that a sort of an awkward, unplanned coming out for Paula. But really, the story is about the parents,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
the performances of those two actors carry this short. They are incredible. So I wanted to just start with asking you about working with them, because the two of them, I don't think I laughed as much at any of the other 751 films we watched as I did with those two.
Florinda Bryant, who plays the mom, and Jose Febus, who plays the father, are incredible. Not only are they dynamic actors on their own, but they also have such great chemistry. And I was really, really blown away by how much more I learned about the characters when I saw them in the film.
It the film kind of speaks to an important part of coming out, that's probably something that a lot of queer people share, which is that sometimes you just need to give the people a little time and space to digest the new information. That that their initial reaction, because this wasn't planned
Mm-hmm.
and it catches them off guard at a time when
Yes,
they're all focused on something else,
yes.
that the initial reaction is not good, but they get there in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, I think to an extent, sometimes when it's parents, sometimes parents know, they just haven't admitted it to themselves, or they're waiting for that confirmation. And so there can be shock, but sometimes that shock is just the shock of the actual coming out, not exactly the shock of the news itself. And
Yeah.
so um, I think that coming out is a process, and everyone should take whatever time they need to make sure that it's a comfortable experience for them. But as we all know, and as COVID taught us, you can't control everything, and sometimes
Right.
sometimes the cat is just out of the bag.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Linda, the mom, says, secrets are what you keep from strangers, which I thought was a great line.
Hmm.
In that it speaks to the of what family should be, and
Yes.
for queer people, there's family of choice, where that is very much the truth, where you can be yourself and there don't need to be any secrets. And sometimes in biological family, that is true. Sometimes it's not. Uh,
Hmm.
Tell me about Paula and the secrets in the film.
Yes. Well, that line, which actually Jose Febus delivers really beautifully in the film, that line is really important to me because in so many parts of the Panamanian community, and especially in the Afro-Panamanian community, sexuality is oftentimes a topic that's just not even up for discussion. And so if you are in some way not straight identifying, then you're kind of invisible. And so with this particular community, um, of course, every individual family is different, but with this particular community, secrets is a really big deal. You know, Many times queer sexuality is considered a behavior more than an identity, and a behavior that is private, is secret, is like when I was growing up, there is this idea that if someone was in love with a man, and or had been to prison, and or had committed a crime, and or um, was struggling with addiction, and or it was just kind of like lumped into a lot of different things, which, as you can imagine, for a kid it can be very confusing.
Sure.
I don't think that going to prison or having struggled with addiction is anything to be ashamed of. I also don't think that being queer is anything to be ashamed of, but they were all like lumped together in this pile of things to be ashamed of and secrets to keep, and that are not polite topics for conversation. And so that was really important to confront in this film. For the characters that are coming from my community, as it's an important issue that the community faces.
The turning point for the mom is the realization that what she wants for family is still possible,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
It's that awareness that, oh, well, this doesn't mean I can't have grandchildren, and it doesn't mean that you won't have a perfectly happy, satisfying life. And that seems to be the point at which she just shifts gears and starts matchmaking a different way.
Yeah, it's really a lot of fun, working with Florinda on that. And I want to shout out Cami Cruz Thomas, who was the film's director and who did a terrific job. I think that she brought out so much humor in the script. When working with the actors, I think that she really found there's this funny bone that I think I was just tickling just a little bit, that she
Mhm.
found a way to really get in there, like
Make
tickle.
it work. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited about that, and I think that these truths are sometimes they are disruptive in terms of someone's like dreams and hopes and expectations for their family and for their child, but sometimes they're not that disruptive. Sometimes it's just a shift, right?
Yeah.
And because at the end of the day, Linda the mom is still exactly who she was, who's this like matchmaking, meddling mother who's all up in everybody's business and wants to see their Facebook, right? And
Yep.
Paola is still who she is, which is like a slightly awkward girl who's still very much a little bit in an adolescent mindset, even though she's blossoming into an adult young woman, and she's still kind of embarrassed by her parents, but still they still matter to her a lot. And so,
Sure.
you know, um, we are who we are, I think, in spite of and also despite our sexuality. So it is an important part of us, but our only it's not the only factor that defines any of us. And so when someone finds, let's say they didn't know about your queerness and they find out that that is a part of you, then yes, they have gotten to know you better, but also they've known other parts of you too,
Mhm.
and you are still very much the person that they've always known.
The you talk about tickling the funny bone. Some of the lines that you wrote about the different body parts are just killer because they're coming out of the mouths of these two characters.
Hmm.
But the discussion with is that an anus or her, which just seems to come out of nowhere, but it for its absurdity works very well. That this is, I mean, the whole notion of talking about sexuality
Hmm.
generally isn't something you do with your parents,
Yeah.
and to sort of be to where I think the first line she says once she's outed is, well, that's not my clit. And
you know,
they're killer lines, but they work because you've got two very different environments, the back seat and the front seat,
hmm,
in that
hmm.
car. And so things that are said mean different things to those characters.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's really great to play with space in that way and to think of it as a way of defining meaning. That's something that I get from working on stage actually and thinking about blocking in my experience as a director is thinking about how meaning changes when we move around the space on stage. And I think that there's a little bit of that happening also in that car. And ultimately, this is about a family that is grasping for the language to talk about the topics that they've never talked about, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't have a studied, well-read way of going about having these discussions. They don't have a very extensive vocabulary to really engage with discussions on identity. So they're just using the language that they have immediate access to, that just comes to them in that moment, in order to try to speak their truth and ask the questions that matter to them and explain themselves and defend themselves. And I think that it's we're stumbling into these conversations, right?
Yeah.
Um, a lot of us who are not used to having them, we're just stumbling our way through it, and I think that it can bring a lot of levity to the situation, right? And it's a reminder that we also need to extend grace to each other as we're trying to figure out how to talk about this in ways that also convey the love that we have for one another.
Well, laughter is a great way to break down the defenses and open your heart to love. And so, if you can learn this new information with an open heart, if you can learn it through having a good laugh,
Hmm.
it's probably going to go down easier, you know?
Yeah, and I think it'll be more memorable.
Absolutely.
I'm all about making happy memories. So I think that's what makes the best life.
Well, Darrell, last question, if I could, for people who are looking to rewatch or to recommend this to friends,
Mhm.
does the film have a home yet? Is there some place that they can go?
Well, we are at 16 film festivals so far and counting. So definitely keep an eye out for us on the festival circuit. And for more information about the film, they can follow me at Black Boy Travel Joy on Instagram. And they can also check out my website, Darrel Holnes, my first and last name.com, for more information. And I'm hoping that it'll be immediately available to as wide of an audience as we can find very soon.